This is Atlantic Television Network. Welcome to Global News. First, the highlights. Fubara sues for God's divine guidance in River State. Malami EFCC disagree over rights violation claim. UTME registration begins January 26, according to JAB. IMF warns central banks against aggressive rate cuts, and Iraq lawmakers plan to elect president Tuesday. Aston Villa beat Newcastle 2-0, and marriage found me at 19, Patience Ozokwo. Welcome back, and now to the rest of our stories. River State Governor Simon Lai Fubara says his administration's confidence is in divine guidance and draws strength from the assurance that God is sufficient to lead the state's affairs and sustain its people in peace and progress. The governor made the declaration at the 2026 Holy Ghost rally organized by the Redeemed Christian Church of God RCCG at the Adokia Amia Siamaka Stadium, Port Harcourt, on Sunday. Fubara, who was represented by his deputy, Professor Ngozi Mma Odo, said the government remains confident that with God on its side, the challenges facing the state are surmountable and the future remains hopeful. He described the theme of the rally, the All-Sufficient God, as timely and reassuring, adding that it serves as a reminder that in the midst of global and national uncertainties, while God remains the unfailing source of wisdom, strength, provision, and grace. Governor Fubaras further said, while human capacity has its limits, God's sufficiency prevails, assuring that divine intervention becomes evident when human effort reaches its end. He commended the Redeemed Christian Church of God for its consistent prayers and spiritual support for River State and the nation, and further commended the church role in promoting moral values, unity, and faith in God. In his sermon, the General Overseer of the RCCG, Pastor Enoch Adeboye, described God as all-sufficient and capable of meeting every human need, including medical interventions. Angry mobbers unleashed violent assault on a suspected armed robber in Calabar, which incidentally led to his death. The incident happened on Sunday morning in Abangasang area of Calabar when the suspect was about to rob an unsuspecting woman who, when luck ran against him. When the State Police Command's anti-kidnapping unit arrived at the scene, they successfully intervened to prevent the mob from inflicting more injuries on the suspect. A statement signed by the State PPRO ASP Sunday to confirmed that the suspect died at the hospital, and the police recovered a Beretta pistol with 3 live 9mm rounds of ammunition and arrested some of the individuals involved in the mob attack, and 3 suspects are currently in police custody and are assisting with the ongoing investigation. Meanwhile, the Commissioner of Police in the state, CP Rashid Afegbua, has described the operation as a clear demonstration of the command's commitment to crime prevention, protection of lives, and strict adherence to the rule of law. He strongly condemned the mob action, stressing that suspects apprehended by private individuals must always be handed over to the police for proper investigation and prosecution in accordance with the law. Anambra State government says it is beginning a pro rata salary payment for workers across the state as part of efforts to end the Monday sit-at-home directive enforced by the indigenous peoples of Biafra across the state. The government said effective February 2026, salaries of civil servants in the state will be paid on a pro rata basis. Speaking with journalists in Oka, the State Commissioner for Information Law, Mefor, said the initiative was reached during the end of tenure retreat of the Anambra State Executive Council, and on how the pro rata payment will be calculated. The Commissioner said the 24 working days in the month would be used to divide a worker's salary to determine what they would earn at the end of the month. He said the retreat was held to review the activities of the administration of Governor Chukwuma Soludo in his concluding 4-year tenure, as well as to craft a better focus for the new term commencing on March 17, 2026. The Commissioner said the retreat observed that for the past 4 years, Anambra public and civil servants did not show up for work on Mondays due to the sit-at-home, citing insecurity and the unavailability of transportation, adding that negotiations are already ongoing to get market leaders to see reasons to open markets on Mondays, while the state government is also boosting security as a way of building traders' confidence to come out on Mondays and carry out their legitimate businesses. Indigenous people of Biafra has insisted that the Monday sit-at-home is not a crime, but a legal, peaceful civil protest, describing it as a symbolic act of solidarity with its leader, Nnamdi Kanu. The pro-Biafran group stated this in a press statement released by its spokesman, Ima Powerful, on Sunday while reacting to a call by the Anambra State Governor, Professor Chukwuma Soludo, who threatened to sanction any teaching and non-teaching staff who fail to report for work on Mondays. This is coming after the Anambra State government said it would begin implementing pro rata salary payments for workers across the state as part of efforts to end the Monday sit-at-home, adding that effective February 2026, salaries of civil servants in the state will be paid on a pro rata basis. Reacting to the development, IPOP said the state's move to turn a peaceful protest into a punishable misconduct amounted to a declaration of war on the people's dignity, and also argued that a government that turns peaceful protests into punishable misconduct is simply declaring war on the people's dignity. The group therefore urged Soludo to stop threatening Indi Anambra and Indi Igbo, while the Anambra State government said it would begin pro rata salary payments for workers across the state as part of efforts to end the Monday sit-at-home, adding that effective February 26, salaries of civil servants in the state will be paid on a pro rata basis. Lagos State Internal Revenue Service has warned taxpayers against engaging in artificial or fictitious transactions designed to reduce tax liabilities, adding that such arrangements will be disregarded under the Nigeria Tax Administration Act (NTAA) 2025 and may expose culpable taxpayers to investigation and penalties. A statement dated January 21, 2026 on Sunday and signed by Executive Chairman Mr. Ayodele Sobai said the directive applies to all taxpayers, including incorporated entities, partnerships, trusts, natural persons, and other stakeholders operating within Lagos State. He further warned that it is a power to disregard, adjust or recast any arrangement perceived to be artificial or primarily structured to reduce tax liability, stressing that any additional tax, penalty, or interest arising from such adjustments will be payable by the affected taxpayer. The notice also referenced the Income Tax Transfer Pricing Regulations 2018, which require taxpayers to disclose transactions between related entities where at least one party is a non-corporate entity, stressing that it reserves the right to demand transfer pricing documentation for transactions between companies and individual shareholders, including shareholder loans, write-offs, leases, and advances. The public notice takes effect from January 1, 2026 in line with the commencement date of the newly gazetted tax laws. Federal High Court sitting in Lagos has directed 48 persons to present themselves at the Lagos command of the State Security Service (SSS) in Shanganshi over allegations bordering on fraud and unlawful receipt of funds. The order issued on January 12, 2006 is connected to an ongoing investigation in a suit instituted by the Federal Republic of Nigeria against Yakubu Idris and 47 other persons. According to the court's directive, the affected individuals are required to report to the SSS within 60 days from the date the public notice was issued. In line with the provisions of suit, said the appearance is mandatory to enable the suspect to respond to the allegations and clear themselves during the course of the investigation, and also warned that failure to comply with the order would amount to a breach of a lawful court directive. The notice listed the names of the individuals alongside their last known addresses across several states, including Abuja, Lagos, Ogun, Ondo, Oyo, Nasarawa, Kano, Imo, Delta, and Rivers. The court consequently directed all the listed persons to report to the State Security Service Lagos Command within the stipulated 60-day period for further action. Fire outbreak has engulfed parts of the Amuwo Odofin Industrial Estate in the Mautu area of Lagos State. The Lagos State Fire and Rescue Service confirmed the incident in a statement by the Controller General of the agency, Margaret Adeshaye, saying 8 operatives were already on ground working to contain the blaze. She assured residents and business owners in the area that the situation was under control and urged them not to panic. The fire service boss further said firefighters were making efforts to prevent the fire from spreading to nearby facilities while emergency operations continued. Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde says it has become difficult to speak truth to power under the administration of President Bola Tinubu. Makinde said this at a function in Ibadan where he compared the style of the Tinubu government with what he described as a more consultative approach during the tenure of late President Muhammadu Buhari. The governor also criticized the Tinubu administration's handling of the tax reform bills and event drew dignitaries, including the immediate past Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, whom the governor said he missed his style of leadership. Oyo State chapter of the People's Democratic Party has called on security agencies to invite the wife of the former governor of the state, Florence Ajimobi, for questioning over her comment, urging residents to prepare for war ahead of the 2027 general elections. The party said Ajimobi's comment was capable of stoking tension and worsening the security situation in the state and the country if left unchecked. This is coming after a video that went viral on Friday, and Ajimobi, who was recently appointed as an ambassador by President Bola Tinubu, allegedly threatened that the 2027 election in the state would be war, adding that she had the support of the federal government to dislodge the PDP in the state. Ajimobi, who was addressing a group of people in the video, said the APC had what it takes to confront the PDP-led government. Reacting to the statement, the Assistant Publicity Secretary of PDP in the state, Tella Moses, described Ajimobi's statements as grave and unbecoming of a diplomat, calling on the police and other security operatives to interrogate her. Police command in Oyo State has rescued one Haruna Lawal, who was kidnapped at Olorunda village a few hours after his abduction. The command spokesman, DSP Ayan Lade Olayinka, who disclosed this in a statement on Sunday in Ibadan, said the prompt rescue of the kidnapped victim was a result of coordinated response of police operatives and command's commitment to the protection of lives and property. Olayinka said the command received a distress call about the kidnapping incident from the victim's sister, Alimot, and suspected kidnappers armed with dangerous weapons had invaded her brother's residence. Olayinka said the prompt response, aggressive bush-combing operation, and advancement of police patrol vans with sirens towards the kidnappers exerted pressure on them to abandon the victim and flee. Stressing that the kidnapping victim was rescued alive but sustained a head injury during the ordeal and was currently at the General Hospital, Oyo, receiving appropriate medical attention. Olayinka further said efforts had been intensified to track down and arrest the fleeing suspect while investigation into the incident was ongoing, and assured members of the public of the command's readiness to ensure criminals find no hiding place in the state. Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke has criticized the economic blueprints unveiled by the governorship candidates of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Bola Oyebamiji, adding that the proposals could undermine recent economic reforms in the state. A statement issued by his spokesperson, Olawale Rashid, on Sunday in Oshogbo, Adeleke said an assessment of the Oyebamiji's document showed policy directions that differed sharply from the development framework currently being implemented by his administration, while the opposition blueprints allegedly promotes policies that may encourage capital movement outside the state. Responding to similarities between both policy documents, the governor alleged the aspects of the APC blueprint mirrored project already being executed and also referenced recent legislative actions, including the signing of the state electricity law to regulate power generation and distribution. He said implementation processes were ongoing to strengthen energy supply as a foundation for economic development, adding that interstate partnerships within the Southwest were already active, but cautioned against arrangements that could weaken Osun's local economy. Adeleke addressed references to the blue economy by pointing to ongoing public-private partnership projects such as the Owala Lake Beach Resort, which he said had been revived after years of neglect, alongside plans to develop other inland water and tourism assets. Ondo State Police Command has arrested 7 persons over the theft of goods valued at 20.45 million naira from a commercial shop in Ore, Odigbo local government area of the state. The command said 3 of the suspects were employees of the shop, while the remaining 4 were alleged receivers of the stolen items, while a driver identified as Ojewuyi was also implicated in the operation. The State Police Public Relations Officer Abayomi Jimo disclosed this in a statement on Sunday that the case was reported on January 3, 2026 by the shop owner Ogunyomi Shegun, who told police that some of his employees had been assorted soft drinks, trophy cans, and other canned beverages with a total estimated value of 20.45 million naira, adding that during the investigation, all the suspects confessed to the crime and clearly stated that the roles each of them played. The police spokesperson urged members of the public to remain vigilant and cooperate with security agencies by promptly reporting suspicious activities, and also reiterated the command's resolve to rid the state of criminal activities, stressing that offenders would face the full weight of the law. National Drug Law Enforcement Agency NDLEA has arrested a 30-year-old Brazilian woman, Miss Ingrid Rosa Benevide, at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja over an attempt to smuggle a large consignment of heroin into the country. The suspect was taken into custody, and shortly after her arrival in Abuja aboard a Qatar Airways flight, the agency followed intelligence-driven surveillance. A statement on Sunday by the NDLEA's Director of Media and Advocacy, Femi Babafemi, officers discovered suspicious items while searching two suitcases checked in by the Brazilian national, who is the private security operative in her home country. The parks held the white substance, which laboratory tests later confirmed to be heroin, with a combined weight of 30.9 kilograms. The NDLEA said the illicit drugs, estimated to be worth more than 3 billion naira on the streets, represent the largest single heroin seizure ever recorded at the Abuja airport. The agency reiterated its resolve to strengthen intelligence-led checks at airports and other entry points to curb the transnational drug trafficking and safeguard the country from the inflow of illicit substances. Residents of Bogu Kingdom in Bogu local government area of Niger State have cried out to President Bola Tinubu, urging him to urgently deploy security forces to halt the persistent killings in the area. The appeal followed recent attacks in which no fewer than 6 youths, including some staff members of the Kenji National Park, were reportedly killed in Wawa town of the local government area. President Tinubu is the holder of the traditional title Jagaban of Bogu Kingdom, a title conferred on him by the emirate, now grappling with escalating insecurity. Dantoro made the appeal while addressing a press conference in Kaduna, where he described the security situation in Bogu as alarming and called for immediate federal intervention, adding that the continued attacks on communities in his emirate showed that the existing security architecture had failed to protect lives and property. According to him, several communities in Bogu local government area, including Wawa Gbere, New Bosa, Bamana, and Doga, had come under repeated attacks, leading to loss of lives, displacement of residents, and disruption of economic activities, adding that insecurity in the kingdom had reached a critical stage, with many residents feeling abandoned by the authorities. Military High Command has reiterated the determination of the Armed Forces of Nigeria in collaboration with other security agencies in the country to safely rescue and reintegrate all kidnapped victims of Kumin Wali community in Kaduna State with their family members in due course, and also appealed for calm and understanding among Nigerians on the situation. A statement issued by the Director of Media Operations, DMO Major General Michael Onoja, said the Armed Forces of Nigeria was duly aware of the apprehensions of displaced residents of the affected community regarding the ongoing operations to secure the release of the victims, and assured that the safe rescue of the affected victims remained a paramount undertaking. He said, contrary to assertions of the diminished response, the AFN, in close collaboration with other security agencies, has been executing sustained intelligence-driven operations within the vicinity and surrounding forested areas believed to harbor the perpetrators. He appealed for sustained public support, patience, and cooperation as operations advance toward a successful resolution, adding that the Armed Forces of Nigeria has duly acknowledged the apprehensions expressed by displaced residents of Kumin Wali regarding the ongoing efforts to secure the release of their abducted family members, and reassured the affected communities and the general public of that the safe rescue and reintegration of all kidnapped victims remain a paramount undertaking. He said the operations encompass a strategic amalgamation of ground patrols, surveillance, intelligence gathering, and targeted initiatives meticulously designed to locate the kidnappers and secure the hostages without jeopardizing their safety. Gombe State Police Command has confirmed the killing of 3 suspected bandits, as well as recovery of arms and ammunition, and rescued the kidnapped victims following coordinated security operations across border communities in the state. The State Police Public Relations Officer DSP Buhari Abdullahi, who disclosed this, said security forces had earlier thwarted an attempted attack by bandits due to heavy deployment across vulnerable areas. According to him, the attackers later struck in the early hours of Saturday at Garin Galadima in Lambo community, and the attack triggered an immediate response from security forces and local vigilantes, stressing that the pursuit resulted in a fierce gun battle between security operatives and the bandits. The police spokesperson further said a large guard catch of ammunition was recovered from the fleeing suspect and assured residents that security operations are ongoing to apprehend the remaining suspect. The Gombe State Police Command reiterated its commitment to protecting lives and property, particularly in border communities prone to criminal incursions, while urging members of the public to continue supporting security agencies with timely information. You are watching the Global News on Atlantic Television Network. We'll go on a short break, and when we return, we'll continue with the rest of our stories. Just stay tuned. Welcome back. This is the Global News on Atlantic Television Network. Now to the rest of our stories. Former Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami San and the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission have disagreed over a claim by the ex-minister that the Department of State Services and the EFCC were obstructing his rights to fair hearing in an ongoing interim forfeiture case. The former minister had in a statement said actions taken by both the EFCC and the DSS amounted to a deliberate attempt to frustrate his ability to defend himself before the Federal High Court. Malami, who served as Attorney General and between 2015 and 2023 under the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, has been under scrutiny since leaving office, with multiple probes initiated over alleged financial misconduct and abuse of office. The EFCC's application for interim forfeiture relates to assets linked to Malami, with prosecutors arguing that the properties and the funds in question were subject to forfeiture pending determination of substantive criminal allegations. However, Malami's special assistant on media, Mohammed Doka, said after the EFCC filed charges against the former AGF, the court granted him bail on conditions including the immediate surrender of his international passports. Beatrice Ekweremadu, wife of former Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu, has returned to Nigeria nearly 2 years after serving a jail term in the United Kingdom. Beatrice arrived in Nigeria on Tuesday, January 21, touching down at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, where she was received by friends and relatives after the conclusion of the legal process that began in 2022. Mrs. Ekweremadu was convicted alongside her husband over her role in an organ trafficking conspiracy that drew international attention, and while her husband received a 9-year and 8-month prison sentence as a principal actor in the case, Beatrice was slammed with 4 years and 6 months. The Ekweremadus were charged for facilitating the travel of a 21-year-old street trader from Nigeria to the UK for the intention of harvesting his kidney for their daughter, Sonia, who suffers from chronic kidney disease, and the case was prosecuted under the United Kingdom's Modern Slavery Act 2015. National Forum of Former Legislators, NFFL, has called for inclusion of rotational presidency between the north and south parts of Nigeria, describing it as a necessary step to promote equity, reduce political tension, and strengthen national unity ahead of future elections. The call formed part of resolutions reached at the 2026 National Summit of the Forum in Abuja, and the summit convened by the Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, in a communique expressed the beliefs that the rotational principle in the Constitution would eliminate doubts, build enduring trust between the North and the South, and provide clarity for future generations. The forum also said such a step would promote fairness, inclusion, and democratic stability in Africa's most populous country, adding that in line with the spirit of equity and national balance, the presidency should rotate to the North in 2031, following the conclusion of the current Southern presidency under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The former legislators also resolved to support the continuity of the present administration's reforms, stressing that stability and democratic consistency required President Tinubu to complete the full 8-year tenure traditionally accorded to the South. They further passed a vote of absolute confidence in the Tinubu administration and adopted him as its sole candidate for the 2027 general election, stressing that the forum have reaffirmed its commitment to national dialogue, consultation, and peaceful engagement as the preferred tools for resolving political, social, and regional challenges.
We are gathered here as former legislators who will go back and educate the voters, because we don't expect all voters to come and sit here. And our royal fathers that are here, it's very kind of you that found time to listen to political talk.
We believe in continuity. And I didn't hide it, I said it, and I pleaded that they should give us opportunity to finish our term. And I assure them that when is the turn of the Northerners, we do not need to start arguing with them. We will support them wholeheartedly.
The paramount ruler of that area told me to extend their appreciation to the president. And that if I run into the president, I should tell him that this was the road that was promised to them before the plebiscite of 1961. And nobody ever did it until he came to power. So he said, as far as they are concerned, Their 2027 election, especially presidential election, is already decided.
He understood the fact that the turning point of every nation is a point when leaders must decide to either live for politics or live for posterity. He understood the fact that it's not about being presidential, it's about being a statesman. He took this decision not just for his generation, but for my generation and generation coming after me. That is the president we have. That is the risk he has taken. And Nigerians, being represented by each and every one of us, here seated, must go in 2027 and repay that and understand there wouldn't be a Singapore with
The event, which had a theme, National Unity and Nation Building Beyond 2031, had in attendance former Senate Presidents Pius Ayim, former House Speakers Patricia Ete and Yakubu Dogara, and Minister of the Interior Bumi Tunji Ojo, and former federal and state lawmakers, as well as other dignitaries. The National Business and Technical Examination Board, NABTEP, has extended the registration timeline for the 2026 National Common Entrance Examination into technical colleges, assuring stakeholders of a seamless process. The Registrar and Chief Executive Officer of NABTEP, Dr. Aminu Mohammed, made this known in a statement issued on Sunday in Benin through the board's Assistant Director, Media and Protocol, Uchechukwu Olisa. Mohammed said the board had approved the 4-month registration window for the examination, adding that the move was aimed at easing pressures on candidates and families, and the registration would start on January 26 and close on May 24, while the examination would be conducted nationwide on June 6. The registrar said the developments followed the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, approving the 2026 examination and registration framework, adding that the board has strengthened its administrative and technological systems to ensure that the registration process was user-friendly, accessible, and free of disruptions. The NABTEP Chief Executive, however, urged prospective candidates to register only through the official NABTEP online portal and warned prospective candidates against the use of unauthorized agents or third-party platforms, and also reaffirmed NABTEP's commitment to professionalism and transparency. Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board says registration for the 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination will take place between January 26 and February 28 at all approved computer-based test centers nationwide. Speaking in Lagos at a meeting with commissioners for education ahead of the 2025 UTME and direct entry exercises, the JAMB Registrar Professor Ishak Oloyede said the sale of UTME application documents would begin earlier than the actual registration. Oloyede further said the mock examination selection would close on February 16, while the sale of direct entry application documents and e-pin vending would commence on March 2 and end on April 25, adding that the UTME results of underage candidates would only be released after the completion of the entire evaluation process. He said to ensure proper assessment of candidates seeking age waivers, all CBT centers participating in the UTME registration exercise will be monitored live from JAM headquarters, adding that 924 centers have been screened and provisionally listed, and the final test before being fully accredited to participate in the UTME registration and examination. The JAM boss also clarified that candidates are not required to pay any service charge to CBT centers, stressing that registration fees approved by the board remain the only payment required. Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board has scrapped special concessions and registration procedures previously granted to candidates with albinism for the 2026 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination, citing abuse of the privilege to perpetrate examination malpractice. The board also warned faith-based tertiary institutions to declare their religious status at the point of admission, saying it is deceptive to present as secular and later impose religious rules on students. Addressing complaints from candidates admitted into some private institutions over compulsory religious instruction, Oloyede urged faith-based schools to be transparent, adding that federal government-owned institutions allocate 45% on merit, 20% on catchment area, 20% to educationally disadvantaged states, while the remaining slots are allocated to other considerations. He criticized some states for establishing new universities despite not fully utilizing their admission quotas in existing federal institutions, warning that 16 years remained the minimum admission age while an attestation process was in place for exceptional cases. He further said over 2.4 billion naira had been disbursed to institutions that consistently complied with JAM's rules over the past 10 years. And the meeting agreed that schools producing the best candidates should be compensated. Federal government has reaffirmed its commitment to reviewing the consolidated health salary structure as part of efforts to resolve the ongoing industrial dispute with the joint health sector unions. The Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare made this known in a statement issued in Abuja by its Director of Information and Public Relations, Alaba Balogun. The statement was in response to a joint release by the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria over the dispute between the ministry and Johesu, adding that the ministry's attention was drawn to allegations that it deliberately refused to implement the report of the Technical Committee on the Adjustment of CONHES submitted in 2021, describing the claims as untrue and misleading. This is coming after Johesu commenced an indefinite strike on November 14, 2025, following its demand that CONHES be adjusted in the same manner as the consolidated medical salary structure, and contrary to the allegations by organized labor, the federal government had, since the commencement of the strike, held several conciliatory meetings with Johesu at both the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare and the Federal Ministry of Labor and Employment. It said the meetings were aimed at resolving the dispute amicably in spite of Johesu's decision to approach the National Industrial Court of Nigeria for intervention, and a high-level conciliatory meeting convened on January 15 by the Ministry of Health and Social Welfare formed part of sustained efforts to de-escalate tensions and arrive at a mutually acceptable resolution. Federal government plans to connect 55,675 public schools and health facilities to broadband internet under a $500 million World Bank-backed program designed to expand access to high-quality and climate-resilient digital infrastructure in underserved parts of the country. According to the World Bank's implementation status and results report on the Building Resilient Digital Infrastructure for Growth project, also known as BRIDGE, the target includes 38,803 public schools and 16,872 health facilities expected to be connected by September 2030. The project was approved by the World Bank Board on October 6, 2025, is aimed at expanding the inclusive use of broadband internet in selected unserved and underserved areas of Nigeria, adding that it is structured as a large-scale infrastructure intervention, combining public financing with significant private sector participation. The World Bank document further indicates that the project will be delivered through a special purpose vehicle created to deploy nationwide fiber optic infrastructure, and no private capital had been mobilized as of December 2025, while the structure is expected to attract up to $1.41 billion in private investment by September 2030, significantly exceeding the value of the concessional loan itself. The program also includes capacity building measures, with 37,000 Nigerians expected to receive digital literacy training, and 60% of whom will be women. And now on to some business news. International Monetary Fund has called on central banks to exercise caution in cutting interest rates, adding that maintaining price stability remains critical amid uneven growth and persistent inflation pressures. The fund highlighted that while several economies are experiencing a modest recovery in output, inflationary pressures remain a significant concern, adding that the central bank must carefully balance the trade-offs between supporting growth and avoiding a resurgence of inflation. The IMF said in regions where inflation remains above target, a more cautious data-dependent approach is warranted, and Nigeria's strong growth outlook positions it as a driver of sub-Saharan Africa's expansion, stressing that sustaining economic momentum will require disciplined fiscal and monetary policies. The fund underscored the importance of central bank independence in safeguarding macroeconomic stability, and warned that any deviation from credible monetary frameworks could risk fiscal dominance, where fiscal pressures undermine monetary policy effectiveness and erode the credibility needed to anchor inflation expectations. The IMF said it is essential to navigate volatile global conditions, and the central bank must articulate policy intentions transparently and consistently to ensure that expectations remain well anchored, adding that the independence of monetary authorities, both legal and operational, remains paramount for economic growth and price stability. Socioeconomic rights and accountability projects have dragged the Minister of Power Adebayo Adelabu and the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading PLC before a federal high court in Abuja over their alleged failures to account for 128 billion naira in public funds. A statement issued on Sunday by SERAP's Deputy Director Kolawale Oluwadare in a lawsuit, SERAP is seeking an order of mandamus compelling Adelabu and NBET to account for what it described as the meeting or diverted 128 billion naira from the Ministry of Power and NBET. The organization is also asking the court to direct the defendants to disclose details of how the missing or diverted 128 billion naira was spent, including the dates of disbursement and the purported beneficiaries or contractors who received the money. SEDAP further urged the court to compel the disclosure of the full names, official designations, and offices of all public officers who authorized, approved, or otherwise participated in the release of the missing or diverted 128 billion naira, adding that Nigerians have continued to suffer the consequences of corruption in the electricity sector, particularly amid recurring grid collapses and erratic power supply. SEDAP argued that granting the relief sought would help tackle systemic failures in the sector. No date has been fixed for the hearing of the loss of the suit. And now some international tidbits as Iraq's parliament will meet on Tuesday to elect the country's new president, who will then appoint a prime minister expected to be Nouri al-Maliki after he was endorsed by the largest Shiite bloc. By convention, a Shiite Muslim holds the post of prime minister. The parliament speaker is Sunni, and the largely ceremonial presidency goes to a Kurd. Parliamentary Speaker Haibat al-Halbusi on Sunday said the new parliament will convene on Tuesday to elect a president, and the president have 15 days to appoint a prime minister who is usually nominated by the largest Shiite bloc formed through post-election alliances. Kurdish parties are yet to agree on a presidential candidate who must be endorsed by other blocs and win a 2/3 majority in parliament. French officials have taken the Indian captain of a suspected Russian shadow fleet tanker into custody days after the oil tanker was seized. This is coming after the French Navy intercepted the tanker named the Grinch, which President Emmanuel Macron said was subject to international sanctions and suspected of flying a false flag. The Grinch had been traveling through the Mediterranean Sea from the Russian Arctic port of Murmansk. It is now moored under guard at the southern French port near Marseille. French Joint Staff of the Armed Forces soldiers talked to people on the oil tanker. French Joint Staff of the Armed Forces soldiers after it was seized in the Mediterranean earlier in January. British Armed Forces supported the U.S. operation to seize the Russian flag tanker in the Atlantic that U.S. officials said had broken sanctions by carrying oil for Venezuela and Russia. And here now is ATN Sports News. Aston Villa now has 4 points of the Premier League summit with an impressive 2-0 win at Newcastle on Sunday. Leaders Arsenal can stretch the advantage over Villa and Manchester City back to 7 points when they host Manchester United later, and Villa bounced back from a shock 1-0 home defeat by Everton last weekend to remain on the fringes of the title race. Newcastle slipped to 9th but remain only 3 points outside the top 5, which will likely be enough for a place in the Champions League. Chelsea have maintained their dominance over Crystal Palace with a 3-1 Premier League victory at Selhurst Park on Sunday, marking their 18th consecutive head-to-head unbeaten match against the Eagles. Chelsea took the lead in the 34th minute when Estevao capitalized on a wayward pass from J.D. Canvot, raced past Tyreek Mitchell and drilled the ball past Dean Henderson. Despite Palace's efforts to respond, Fernandes' header in his own box almost allowed Estevao another chance which he failed to convert, and Chelsea extended their lead early in the second half. Within 5 minutes of the restart, Estevao assisted João Pedro, who caught inside Adam Watson and slotted the ball through Henderson's legs, while Fernandes then converted the penalty after Canvot handled Pedro's shot, giving the visitors a 3-0 advantage. And now entertainment news. Veteran Nollywood actress Patience Ozokwo said she was married at the age of 19 through an arrangement made by her parents. The actress' revelation was shared by a verified X account, Igbo History and Facts, adding that with time, love grew between them and they spent 23 years together as husband and wife. She said her husband was ill for 15 years before he passed away in 2000 and they had 3 children together, and that she later adopted 5 more, though one of the adopted children died. She added that she now has 7 children. The actress said she never remarried. She never remarried after losing her husband, choosing instead to focus on raising her children because the marriages arranged by her parents were treated with commitment and endurance. She further said she raised her children with strong values, encouraging respect and responsibility, which she believes has helped her build a stable home despite challenges. Olakunle Churchill, ex-husband of actress Tonto Dike, has confirmed reconciling with her 10 years after their messy divorce. This is coming after Tonto Dike had earlier revealed a reconciliation with Churchill, describing the development as an end to their 10 years of online battles. While expressing surprise after years of separation from his son, he said the purpose of their reconciliation is to co-parent and not to be as a couple. Tonto Dike got married to Churchill in August 2015 and welcomed their son King Andre in February 2016. And that's the global news for tonight. Before we go, another look at the major stories. Fubara sues for God's divine guidance in River State. Malami, EFCC disagree over rights violation claim. UTME registration begins January 26. According to JAMB, IMF warns central banks against aggressive rate cuts. Iraq lawmakers plan to elect president Tuesday. Aston Villa beats Newcastle 2-0, and marriage found me at 19. Patience Ozokwo. I am Favour. Chigwestre Michael. Thank you for watching. You can follow us on social media platforms. On Twitter now, X at Atlantic TV Network. On Facebook and YouTube at Atlantic Television Network, and Instagram at Atlantic TV Network. And don't forget, peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful night's rest.